We'll go ahead and call the Ellis County Commission meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Donna, please call the roll.
Commissioner Butch Schlotter,
Here.
Commissioner Destin Ross,
Present.
Commissioner Chair Dean Hazelhorst.
Present. Thank you, Donna. Any changes to the order of business this evening, everyone? No? No executive sessions? No? Approval of prior minutes, January the 14th. Do I have any additions or corrections?
They look good to me.
Stand approved as presented, Donna. I'd ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through G.
I move we pass consent agenda items A through G.
I'd second that motion.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business this evening. I believe we have one for sure. Neil, if you'd like to come up, state who you are and what you're here for, please. And any of your other guests you want to bring with you is fine.
Up to them.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Neil Younger with Center for Life Experience. I know I kind of a short deal to give you a little information to look at. We have gotten split off from where we were on 33rd and Hall. We now have board of directors, myself included. As you see in the letter, this is something I believe that Ellis County needs. I can speak from experience, won't get into that. As everyone knows, a loss is a loss. We all know that it's not healthy for you when it happens. We have come to the commissioners to ask for some funding. I know and I hope we're not too late for 19. Anything would be appreciated. And we would like to get then on the agenda for 2020. So that should probably be what, May-ish, June?
Probably actually March already. We're probably going to start that, aren't we?
Okay.
June 10th will be the date for outside agencies.
I mean, just as far as looking at our budget for 2020, we'll probably already start.
June 10th will
June
be the
10th.
date for outside
Okay.
agencies.
June 10th, okay.
Okay.
Like I say, as you can see, there's 4 different organizations in one, group. So it's not just an additional funding for each one. And like I say, I feel it's very important to Ellis County.
So all 4 of them listed, Neil, they're all under your same
All under
501.
Center for Life.
Okay.
Like I say, and there is a website. If you guys would like to look at that. Fort Hayes helped us out tremendous on that. And there is a lot of Fort Hayes students, NCK students come to our meetings. That's going to be one of their occupations, so they really enjoy it. They cry with us. They ask a lot of questions. It's just a thing that I feel we need, and we're asking for some fundings. It's a nonprofit. We do a lot of things. We do a Christmas tree ceremony. Jackie's Dance Studio lets us put our Christmas tree. There's well over 200 ornaments from people that have lost spouse, child. We do Avenue Pinwheels up at the cemetery for somebody that's lost a child. It is nice. And now the kids retreat is really an excellent thing, and it's really going over well. So
Okay.
again, we're asking for, if there is any funding left, that we would accept that.
Okay.
It says here you serve about 1,000 people each year
And it's,
for your services.
the bad thing is about the 1,000, it keeps growing. Myself and my wife have been in this for 9 years, 4 months. Seems like every meeting, we have the Healing Hearts is for anybody that's lost a child. The group just continues to grow. Sometimes there might be 2 to 3 additional people in there. So,
And you're meeting at the Hadley Center, I guess that's where your office is?
that's where we have moved to now.
Mhm.
So,
Butch, any questions for Neil or Dustin? I talked to Neil briefly this morning about it, but didn't know if you guys had any questions?
Neil, you mentioned you see about 1,000 people a year currently. Do you provide counseling to these people? Is it individual or group counseling, or is it just group therapy type
and
things?
we'll have to answer that
Okay.
for me, that part of it.
It is not individual counseling.
Okay.
I am the one that's been at this for 18 years.
Uh-huh.
I am a social worker, but I am not a clinical social worker. So we facilitate the support groups where people in the community support each other.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the most important points, is that where we need our therapists and our professionals, our highly skilled professionals, this is a way for people in the community to support each other and find ways so that it hopefully also takes a little bit of the load off our professionals who are so stressed and so overloaded with therapy sessions. And so it's a group effort, and we've, like I said, we've done this for 18 years. So that's the 1,000 people we serve a year are people who come primarily to the groups and public education sessions, those kinds of
Okay.
things.
It's people who've been there themselves, try to help others through it.
Absolutely. We feel that's a wonderful resource.
Do you have other fundraisers during the year?
We have not done fundraisers. This is the first time we are actually our own 501c3.
Okay.
We were under the First Presbyterian Church 501c3, and they did support us partially with the expenses, but we are now on our own, so we're getting started. We have received, and we have done some a public campaign toward the end of the year last year when we knew all this was coming about. And so we're just getting started. We're working with our board members on a strategic fundraising plan to put into place. So we've had some success. You can, absolutely.
I'm Dawn Gable. I'm on the board with Neil, and I'm a professional fundraiser, and was asked to join the board by a couple of board members of the Presbyterian Church that were friends of mine and knew that I have a career in that. And we are putting together a strategic fundraising plan for them. They've done a great job. I can't tell you how astounded professionally I am that they planned ahead for this. They did some good work. And then Neil has taken the lead. It isn't millions of dollars, but they've done a good job. They are 3/4 of the way or better to meeting their first year budget, which I challenge many 501c3s that start cold out of the gate to do with all donations. And but I I would like to ask, as a board member, that you consider this request. It's such an amazingly needed resource in Northwest Kansas, and they've been providing it out of the goodness of their hearts for a couple of decades. And now they'll be on their own 2 feet, and we need to do everything we can for the people that are suffering from the situation of suicide and grief in Ellis County and beyond. So that's what we're up to, and yes, they do have in the works a fundraising strategic plan, but they're pretty strong right now. But they could use your help.
Thank you.
Okay.
And before you leave, would you tell us first and last name just for the record?
Yes, Ann Liker,
Thank you. That way
and
Donna has it
I
in.
am the executive director. And one of the comments I just wanted to make, I don't know if any of you saw the insert in the Hayes Daily News yesterday about health care that was done. And as you read that or look through it, one of the big factors in western Kansas that affects health care, the delivery of health care, all those kinds of things is isolation. And it affects people as well and their health. And so that's, I think, one of the underlying main things that we do is to bring people together to face to support each other, which in this day and age, and they appreciate it, and they come consistently, so.
Commissioners, any other questions?
I have none.
None? Phil, did you have anything to add?
How much? I mean, not to be crass about it, but is this a $2,000 request or a $200,000 request? Then the answer is no.
Speaking with Neil, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's open to any amount, from small to large, something that we'll just have to discuss between us.
Yeah, I'd like to do a little research
Yep.
and,
We won't give you a decision tonight. Give us a couple weeks and we can talk about it from there. But I'll share that with you also, Phil. Okay?
thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thanks for all you do.
Any other persons on the order of business this evening? Okay, monthly departmental report. Commissioners, have you had a chance to look at our,
Yeah, I looked through the report. I found it very informative.
that is something they've been doing for about 2 years now. A lot of good information, as you both will see.
Absolutely.
It's really, it's really eye-opening to see everything that our departments do through the county.
Yes.
Any questions, Dustin, on that?
No.
None? None either, Butch?
No questions.
Okay, then the exciting one where you both get a quiz on the 2019 departmental fixed asset inventory.
I completed a lot of them for the health department.
I know you did. A lot of inventory there.
Yes, a lot of inventory.
And also, Butch, you already know, but Dustin, this is something the departments do every year. Right after the first of the year, they do an inventory and supply it to the commissioners, and we have to sign off on it, which I believe you both have.
Yeah.
So, and if you have any questions on what was listed in there, that's everything in the county. No questions?
No questions for me.
Read it all.
Sure you did. We'll have a pop quiz later. That's at the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
Next item, consent the annexation of non-adjoining land into the city of Hayes for property located on the 183 bypass and West 33rd Street. We have Jesse Rohr present and maybe a few other people with him.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. Jesse Rohr, Director of Public Works for the City of Hayes. So this particular item, which you have a copy of in your agenda packet, pertains to a tract of property that the owners have submitted a consent to annex. This property is located along the 183 bypass at what would be West 33rd Street, if 33rd Street actually went on the west side of the bypass there. It's about halfway between the 41st Street and 27th Street intersections on the west side of the bypass. So kind of talk about the property just a little bit and then talk about the process. So the property was formerly the Ball Mobile Home Park many years ago. That was shut down many years ago. The properties, various homes on the property removed. There's still some road infrastructure in there. And so in order to develop the property, the owners have requested annexation so they can obtain city utilities. There is city sanitary sewer along the east side of the bypass, ready for connection of the property. And assuming the annexation does go through, the developers do intend on extending city sewer to the property, or city water to the property as well. So it'll have full water and sewer if and when developed. Do want to mention a little bit about talk a little bit about the process. So this is kind of a three-step process, and an annexation like this, it's non-contiguous, meaning it does not adjoin city limits currently. So state law says we have to do that a little bit different. The first step was to obtain a resolution approved by the Hayes City Commission requesting that the County Commission also pass a resolution authorizing the City Commission to approve an ordinance. So this is the second step, and upon your consideration for approval, what state statute says that you're considering are basically three things. One, that the land is located within the same county as the city. Obviously, this is in Ellis County. Two, that the owners of land have petitioned for the annexation and are agreeing to it. We included a copy of the signed consent in your packet. And third, that the annexation of such land will not hinder or prevent the proper growth and development of the area or that of any other incorporated city located within Ellis County. So we feel that all three of those conditions are met, and that's up to your final determination. And if you would agree with that, then we're asking for approval of the resolution, and then we would forward this back to the City Commission for their consideration of an ordinance that would then finalize the annexation process. So
Jesse, in that process, do you have to contact the adjoining owners, north and south, or not?
no, there is no requirement for notification. This is not a typical, like a public hearing process such as a rezoning where you would have a notification of surrounding owners. So this is, obviously it's not a secret, but there's no required public notifications that this is occurring, so.
Okay, I didn't know if you had to do that or not in the process.
Right.
Do we have to do that, Phil? And do we have to let adjoining owners know, being it's in the county and going into the city? Do we have to do anything with that by contacting them? No.
This is not our request, so we're not.
Okay. Sounds good.
The land's zoned agriculture right now.
Yes, the land is zoned ag, and there, from what we understand, there is no intent on submitting a change of zoning request either. The future developer does intend to keep the property zoned ag and has plans for the property that would be allowable within the ag zoning district.
Okay. Butch, any questions?
No, I have none.
Anything else, Dustin?
Nope.
I don't either, thank you, Jesse. They do need a motion to annex this into the city. At this time, I'd ask for a motion.
I move that the commission find that the proposed annexation will not hinder or prevent proper growth and development within the county or any other incorporated city, and adopt resolution number 2019-2 and direct the clerk to publish the same.
Thank you, Butch. Do we have a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 3-0, Donna.
Okay,
Thank you for coming, Jesse. Next item on the agenda is Northwest Kansas Incident Management Team Application Director, Fire and Emergency Management, Darren Myers.
Good evening, Commissioners. Darren Myers, Director of Fire and Emergency Management for Ellis County. First off, welcome, I guess, Dustin and Butch. First time getting to visit with you in front of the commission, so welcome. The first item here I have for this evening is an application for the incident management team from Northwest Kansas. I put pretty much in the discussion area of the agenda item the direct information off the application on what the expectations of the team members are and actually what the team is. There's 8 teams in all of Kansas, and they serve in the time of need when there's a disaster or a large emergency where the agency, such as Ellis County, would need outside resources and support to actually help run the incident through all the documentation when larger teams come out to help, or if we have state teams come in to do other things for us, they help offset the resources that we don't have to help manage that incident. And just to be a part of it is, in Northwest Kansas, I believe there's only 8 members on the team, and it's supposed to be about an 18-member team, so they are short, and we're trying to get this pushed through. We have 4 different members throughout Northwest Kansas that are trying to get on at the same time, so we can all start going through the training and don't make too much of a duplication of effort on the Northwest team to get us all up to speed and do the training that's required for the team. So with that, I really don't need a motion, but the application does state that the commission is aware of the commitments to the team, and I will just need the commission chairs, if the commission would approve it, for the commission chair to sign the application.
Questions, George?
Well, I really don't have questions. It does state in here that deployments might be as long as 8 days.
Correct. The wildfires last year, the incident management teams were deployed several times throughout the state. Typically, it's usually within a couple of 2 to 3, 4 days, and they'll rotate out depending on what the incident is and how long you can be gone. Obviously, if something starts to happen close to home, they make arrangements for that, so somebody else within that section, whichever job you're filling on that team, they'll find somebody else to come in and relieve you so you can get back if need be. But, large disasters, incident management teams are known nationally, and there's teams that go out there and are self-sufficient for days and weeks at a time if necessary. We're not quite that large of a team. I think a true Type 1 incident management team is, I believe, 70 people.
Okay.
And that's a pretty big team. We're just trying to help cover each other's back here in Northwest Kansas with this team.
Okay.
Any questions, Dustin?
I think, are you still active with the team? Bill Ring was active with the team when he was in the emergency management role and was attending a lot of the training too. He might be able to provide.
Bill Ring, Director of Public Works. You just signed my re-up here a couple of months ago. I've been on the team for, I want to say, 5 years. And it is a value in as much as not only would we go out and help, but when we need help, it brings in people and we work with them on a, daily basis, if you will.
Is this typically for like wildfire type disasters, or it could be anything?
We went to,
Could be tornado.
up to Bird City a few years ago. But you probably remember when the listeria was the big thing.
Sure.
There was a potential outbreak of listeria, and we went up as the incident management team to assist them in how to plan should they start to have an outbreak up there. It was due to contaminated food in the area. And that lasted 1 day, but it was that we went as a contingent to go assist our neighbor, and then if it would happen to us, we would ask the same.
Floodings, tornadoes, wildfires, pandemics, any type of natural or man-made disaster that can be subject to being deployed for it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yep. And Darren, you're on for the next item, Kansas OSFM grant.
As the commission may be aware, I submitted a grant request late last year for the State Fire Marshal's grant, and we were awarded that part of that grant. As you can see, the state was able to double the amount of funding that they were able to put out to departments. However, it also increased the number of departments wanting to request funds. Over 70-some departments, I believe, were actually awarded the grant. I put in for the grant total, I believe it was 8 to 10 sets of what's called dual-purpose structural firefight, wildland and rescue gear. Basically, it's a lighter weight gear, so that way the firefighters don't become overexerted when they're out there working too hard in the heat. It's just lighter weight material. It doesn't have much of a thermal barrier like a structural gear does. And it's also dual-purposed for technical rescue type incidents, or mainly vehicle accidents is what we work out there on the county roads and highways. So it's worked for both of those. I requested about 8 sets. They gave us funding for 4 sets. And I just wanted to make the commission aware that we were awarded the grant and wouldn't see any concern from the commission denying the funds for the county, but it's just common practice for the department heads to bring up grants that are awarded, just for a little bit of PR as well.
Keep up the good work on free money.
This is great, yeah.
All you can get.
Sounds good. Thank you. Have a good night.
Dude, thanks,
Thank
Darren,
you.
for coming. Next item, annual agreement with DS&WK County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes. Earlier this evening, during the public comment portion of the meeting, you received a request from a potential outside agency for funding. Annually, Ellis County funds outside agencies to the tune of just over $1 million. $240,000 of that goes to Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas for various functions. They like to memorialize that in an agreement each year, so this is something they request of us, and it's pretty pro forma. The county councilor has reviewed it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Dustin, any questions?
This was budgeted for this year in our 2019 budget.
Yes, sir, this is budgeted, and in fact, in your consent calendar, you approved the first payment to them, so.
Butch, I know you're familiar with it. Any questions?
Yeah, we've worked with DS&WK for many years through public health, and it's a very worthy cause. Yeah,
Yes.
have no problems with this.
I do need a motion to approve the agreement.
I move the commission approve the annual agreement with DS&WK.
I'll second that motion, Dean.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0, Donna. Thank you all. Budget for 2020, County Administrator Smith Haynes.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Again, Philip Smith Haynes, County Administrator. So, while we're talking about budgets, during the budget development for 2019, the commission came to the conclusion that it would be worthwhile to start the process a little bit earlier than is typical. Typically, we would kick off our budget development process in the spring and get some numbers out of departments maybe around May, present something to the commission in June, and massage it a little, have some meetings with departments, come back with a final in July, publish public hearing in August, and go on our way. This year, the commission, the past commission, thought that it would be a good idea to start a little bit sooner, so we actually discussed this back in November, and at that time they said, well, why don't you bring it back up in January with the new commission? So that's what I'm doing. I realize this is very early into the tenure for a couple of our commissioners, so I thought I would try and ease you into this as lightly as possible. And the first thing that I thought we could talk about is just a schedule for budget development. So I've attached some sheets for the next several months of how we could potentially roll through this, starting with a presentation of an updated financial forecast in the middle of February, and then followed by asking your commission to provide some parameters for initial budget development, and then a couple of weeks for departments to do a first round of budget proposals. And then they would present those. We would potentially have a special commission meeting to consider those. While you're then thinking about those, they would work on their capital budgets for a few weeks. and then come back in mid-April with direction from you to do any revisions to that first set of proposals. That would then stretch about a month, and then have some staff discussion of those revised requests and present them to you the first meeting in June with those outside agency requests. Again, the second meeting in June, as we always do. Full budget presentation, then another special commission meeting to meet with departments, with a potential second one if it's necessary, and a final budget presentation sort of on the same time frame as typical. I talked with departments a little bit last week about this idea. This does seem like an extra step in the process from what we normally do, but really felt like this might be valuable for the commission because it would give you something to react to and some time to then think about that and decide if that was too much or too little, and give us another shot at it, so to speak, before we had to finalize. So that is what I wanted to cover with the commission for this evening. But I will say, that's, as I said, an attempt to just sort of introduce the topic. I've listed in the written materials some questions that we're ultimately going to need the commission to weigh in on, including what parameters departments should use when preparing their requests, and what parameters will be given to outside agencies, and what additional information do you all need to help you make decisions. So the sooner we can start talking about those things, the better, but I thought I would just introduce it tonight, and then if you like this schedule, come back about a month from now and wade into some of these things.
Well, thank you very much for putting that calendar together. It gives us a nice option to going forward for the next few months, and we can do planning, a lot better planning that way. Thank you very much. Dustin, questions maybe?
I think the schedule looks good. I think, we're obviously going to see some financial issues, and I'm glad that the commission before decided to get started early on this. I think this schedule that you put together looks like it would give us plenty of time, especially for Butch and I as new commissioners, the time to understand better each department, what they do, if there's any efficiencies that can be had in those departments, and then at some point start brass tacks of what we can do as a county.
I like the schedule. I think the schedule looks real good. I don't know that there's going to be a lot of things in department budgets that can actually be cut without hitting personnel services. I think it's pretty much bare bones in every department. So that's kind of my starting point with this whole issue. We can't hardly go down anymore.
Over the past few years, our department heads have done a really, really good job of cutting any excess and working with what they have, and we've combined positions of health director and EMS under one roof. And we did a lot of combination. It worked very well, so I think they've done a good job in the past cutting and going forward. So I guess I'm looking forward to your financial forecast.
And I'll just say I concur with Commissioner Schleier. I think, we really are in a position of facing questions around funding for staff, however that looks, whether that is reductions in number of staff, or if we do something with benefits, or there are various iterations of that, but staff does make up over 62% of the budget, and it's really hard at this point to make any meaningful changes without affecting staff in some fashion. So obviously the sooner we get that decision made, the more chance we have to roll that out in a less painful way. So
Sure.
Yeah, I've proposed with Phil, just the idea of obviously we're seeing a loss in cash capital from budget year to budget year, and the idea that we make any kind of changes maybe be phased in over a multiple year process so as not to, enamor our staff with hardship and or make up differences in pay versus benefit, things of those nature. We obviously know it's hard to hire in Ellis County because of our low unemployment rate too, so, we always have to keep in mind the idea of filling our positions as well.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Dustin. Okay, Phil, thank you. I guess you have direction moving forward for our financial forecast meeting in February.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item, Phil, is for you also, personnel policy changes.
Yeah, so the last commission left a few things for the new commission to tackle, one of which is whether you all would like to see any additional changes to the county's personnel policy. We made a monumental step about 2 years ago now in revising a personnel manual that was quite old, modernizing it, and so we got through that, and then the commission decided to withdraw from the Public Employee Relations Act, which ended our union representation effective January 1 of this year. So when we did that, the commission said, well, let's go ahead and meld some of the language from our collective bargaining agreements into the personnel policy. So a committee was formed and undertook that activity, and last September brought forward a revised personnel policy, which the commission adopted effective January 1 of 19. Then in December, we noticed there were a few technical corrections that needed to be made, so we just made 3 small language changes at that time. But the commission further directed me to come back in January with the new commission and asked to revisit this. So there are a couple of things that I think we could stand to change. One thing that we didn't think of because we had been in a collective bargaining situation was we probably ought to add some language around employment with Ellis County being an at-will employer at this point. That's a change. So it would be helpful to have that. Also, one of our department directors pointed out that we used to have an educational reimbursement policy, and that had over the years sort of gone away at some point, I don't think with much intention, and so it might be good to add that back into the policy. There are also a number of other things that your commission could choose to make changes to. There were things that were negotiated with the unions over time that are not required, and so could be changed if the commission so directed. But this is really a kind of an open opportunity for the commissioners to weigh in and see if you like what we have or you want additional modifications.
Butch, any comment?
I read through the whole policy. I kind of thought it was pretty good. But I didn't see anything I disagreed with. I like what we have. I don't know if you think we need something to mention the at-will employee or something. Be okay with me. I mean, I wouldn't oppose anything like that.
I think that should be in there. Thank you, Phil, for thinking of that. Dustin, any things that you noticed? And we don't have to decide on it tonight. This is a work in progress document that we can
Right.
have next week or 2 weeks. If we want it back on the agenda, we can go through it again.
Right. I do like some of the suggestions. I think obviously the at-will one should definitely be put in this. I think that would be good as far as, our employees knowing that at the onset, especially with the long history of collective bargaining that the county has. Yeah, otherwise, like you said, a work in progress. I'd like to look through it, and any suggestions that staff might have, I'd be willing to listen to as well. If you could look, Phil, something I would be interested in is how long ago the policy for education reimbursement was removed or wasn't a part of it, or if that just happened as we made the new policy.
It was not a part of the 1997 policy. I think it may have been a separate policy at one point, and just sort of got dropped. Like I said, nobody has said that there was an intentional removal of it, but it is something that my understanding is it wasn't frequently used, but it is something that sort of, is a benefit as we talk about training and succession planning for staff. So.
Correct. Yeah, I think that'll be a big obstacle for us, is that succession planning. As I talked with, Bill Ring about the age of some of our public works and how close many of them are to being able to retire, the idea that we attract young staff could be really important, and that type of policy could be a nice addition as we look at trying to get skilled staff without much financial cost to the county.
How about we put it back on the agenda for February 11th?
Sounds good.
We all can review it again between then with suggestions or not, and give Phil direction to go from there. Is that fine with both of you?
Mhm.
February 11th meeting?
That sounds perfect.
Okay. Phil, good with you also?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Is that all you had under personnel policy? Didn't mean to cut you off there, okay. County Councilor, Mr. Jeter?
County Councilor Bill Jeter, I do not have a report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. County Administrator report, Philip Smith-Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to take Mr. Jeter's time and then some.
We knew you would.
Yes. So one item that you did not see on the agenda this evening is a report from our Health Services Director regarding the Advanced Practice Registered Nurse. He brought that item to the commission a couple of weeks ago, and there were some additional commission questions in that turned out to be fortuitous because he's experiencing some other changes with the health department that just came about, and so that is still a work in progress. We expect to see it back, but it actually may be a couple of months before that item comes back. So I just wanted to let you know about that. The second item is just a brief update on the Wage and Benefits Committee meeting. I know that the commission was aware that Wage and Benefits was having a meeting and thought there was a potential of a report from them this evening. They did not come to a conclusion on their recommendations, so they are meeting again at the end of January, and we'll probably have something in the February time frame to bring back to the commission, but I just wanted to update you on that. The third and fourth items involve our county clerk and elections. So first, as you are aware, there has been a resignation of Mr. Larry Korth from the Munger Improvement District, and so we have found someone who is willing to serve out the balance of that term, and I would ask for a motion to appoint Daryl Yunker to the balance of Mr. Korth's term on the Munger Improvement District.
Would of you like to make a motion to approve Daryl Yunker to believe he's replacing Larry Korth, correct?
I move that the commission replace Larry Korth with Daryl Younger. What was the district that he was in?
Munger Improvement.
In the Munger Improvement District.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Donna, we have a motion and a second to approve Darrell Yunker to the Munger Improvement District. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item, like I said, is also related to elections, and this is to have the chair draw a name for the Catherine Township Clerk. As Clerk Maskus can explain probably better than I, but the person who was elected to that or had the most votes for that office declined that office, and there were a number of folks who had one write-in vote each, one of whom currently is in another office with the township, so I believe we have 8.
Right now. Donna Maskus, Ellis County Clerk, election official. We did have 8 write-ins that had one vote each from the November election. Reviewing those, one of them currently is on that board, and we're talking about the Catherine board for clerk. And then some of them were not registered. Some of them did not reside there. So I come down to 3 names that I see that are registered in Catherine.
Okay.
And what I would request is that you draw one at a time so I know which one to contact first, second, and hopefully not have to do a third.
Okay.
This is democracy in action right here.
Blaine Gable. And your number 2 choice is Tom Mai. And Jack Polifka. Thank you. Will we have to canvass them later?
I'll bring back who accepts it, and then I'll need a motion. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of them.
Yeah. A lot of pressure there.
All right, thank you for that. Just a few more updates. We have picked a retreat date. That will be February 20th. I sent the commissioners a note on that. I don't have a location yet, but I'm working on that this week, so as soon as I do, I will let you know where that will be. Of course, that will be a noticed public meeting. The shop building at the landfill has a leaky roof, so we have taken bids for that, and that is under my signature authority, so I will not be bringing it to the commission, but I just wanted to let you know that that was going on in case you get any questions about why work is being done out there. And last but not least, just to let the commission know that also under my signature authority today did execute an agreement with an architect to do pre-design work on the Public Works building with a view to giving the commission some options of different things we could do out there before we move to final design. So that is my report for this evening, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Phil. We'll move on to county commission reports. Butch, would you like to go first?
Sure. I just wanted to let you know I attended the commissioner orientation down at Topeka over the week, last week, and I found it to be very informative. Some of it a little bit surprising, but I watched a lot of other new county commissioners down there sitting there with their mouths open wondering just what they really got into. I had a pretty good idea what I got into, but there was still some very good information. I found it very informative. One thing I couldn't understand, though, is after the meeting was over, I promptly left. I got in my truck and left, and I was just a little bit on the west side of Salina, and our administrator passed me up just like I wasn't driving fast at all, so couldn't understand how we quite got accomplished that.
He was late for a meeting, so he was...
I did come back in the office.
Dustin.
I also attended the Kansas Association of Counties new commissioner orientation. We learned a lot about the commissioner's job description, running effective meetings, a little bit about our insurance policy and workers' comp policies. Those took place about 3 and 4 in the afternoon, and it was perfect timing. We were just tired enough to learn about insurance. But it was informative, and it was nice to learn. Actually, the K-Camp representative was there, and it was nice to learn then that this was the type of insurance that we were under, the same type of insurance that nearly 80% of all counties in the United States are under. So that was interesting. A little bit from senior commissioners throughout the state about balancing your role as a commissioner with your personal life. You know, some good advice about family is always first, but you have this duty to your community, to your county. Tomorrow I'll be attending the Kansas Legislative Policy Meeting and Local Government Day on Wednesday. I'm still learning a lot about our county employees and the tasks that they do on a daily basis. I'm excited to begin my work with Community Corrections and the Juvenile Services Board, and I'm excited about some legislation that we're hoping to be working on in the future, being pursued all over the country, a type of legislation that makes state government more of a representative republic government. It's kind of neat, groundbreaking stuff, but I'll probably bring more on that as I know more about what the legislation is. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dustin. I too will be in Topeka tomorrow with Dustin for a couple of days. I think along with Phil's also going to be there with us. Been working on our meeting that'll be hosted in September, either the 4th or the 11th, Northwest Kansas Highway Officials Meeting. As of to date, should have wrote that down. I either have 20 or 22 vendors coming, Bill. So be a change from in the past where we have 1 or 2, so working on that pretty diligently, and I'll be working with Bill probably starting in February now. We're going to finish putting that together and make that a go. So, and Phil, I never have been contacted about the Workforce One meetings. Do you know when them are coming up by chance?
I don't have a schedule, but I can contact them. I think Donna let them know, but I'll...
Do you want me to call when you're gone? Do you want me to check tomorrow?
Yeah, if you have a chance tomorrow, that'd be great.
I was just wondering, I know I was supposed to attend, but I'm assuming, do they not have them every month? No?
I was thinking they were maybe quarterly when Marcy was
It's not every month.
doing it.
Okay.
so.
Okay, well, I guess let me know when I'm supposed to go. Okay, anything else, fellow commissioners?
I'd like to know the same thing on the boards that I'm on,
Okay.
some sort of a schedule of where I need to be and what times.
I have a question, Commissioner, question, Dean.
Yes.
I guess next Monday, we have a meeting for the comprehensive plan, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, there will be a special commission meeting in this room at 4 p.m. To discuss, it's a meeting with the consultant who's working on the comprehensive plan.
I believe the agenda I got said it was at 7 p.m., which is why I'm questioning that.
Oh, I believe the agenda you got was for the planning commission. They have moved, they would customarily meet
Okay.
this Wednesday, and they have moved their meeting from this Wednesday to next Monday following your commission
okay.
meeting. They meet at 7 p.m. I believe they were trying to, the consultant was wanting to consult with the three of you first and then with them. So I think that's, we have not actually sent out an agenda for the commission meeting yet, but we will get that out this week.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, Butch?
Nope, I'm good.
Dustin, anything else?
Nothing from me.
We will adjourn, Don, at 5:56. Thank you all for coming.
You bet. Thank you, Dean.